Welcome to the Memory Alpha podcast. We are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Star Trek Wiki. Today with Andy Polistaitis, creator and co-author of We Have Engaged the Borg. Alex, known as Schisma on Memory Alpha with more than 38,000 contributions, and the legendary Bernd Schneider, creator and maintainer of Ex Astre Scientia, the website known for its detailed articles and information about the Star Trek universe. And of course with Jan and Florian. I think your book is freely available online. Is it true?
Mm-hmm. It is true. I can't sell it, so you can have it for free. Mm-hmm. Enjoy.
You can't sell it? Why can't you sell it?
Because it's fan fiction. I can't sell it.
Okay.
No licensing.
But you printed the book.
So you would need a license to be able to sell it.
You have Paramount, CBS, who kind of oversee everything. And then two companies kind of deal with the book side of things. Titan Books deals with the non-fiction Star Trek books, so things like the autobiographies, the Haynes manuals, anything that's kind of more of a technical bent is run by them. And then Simon and Schuster have the narrative license for all the fiction books and everything. And unfortunately, in recent years, it used to be back 20 odd years ago, they did engage with fan authors and bring them into the fold. Una McCormick started out as a fan fiction writer who was then brought in, and she's written some absolutely fantastic works of Star Trek fiction now. But it's now such that they tend to just want to work with established authors that they know and just write beats that they want to be hit, basically. They want, okay, we need a story to kind of fill a bit this whole go off and write the story. And again, taking nothing away from the authors, I'm a huge fan of David Mack and Jane Swallow and Keith DeCania. Many of them, I love the work they're doing, but the 90s and the 2000s was a really exciting time for Trek literature. There was some amazing stuff out there. I love the literary universe. I am so salty about what they did in Star Trek Coda. If you ever do a podcast about that, bring me back. I have thought. But I Memory Alpha is fantastic, but Memory Beta was where I lived. I love Memory Beta. There were Hantsu books exploring the Romulans. I love those. The DC comics are great because they basically have this idea that between Star Treks 2 and 3 and between Star Treks 3 and 4, they go off and have an entire adventure with Kirk in command of the Excelsior, and they do all this kind of crazy stuff. But then when Star Trek 4 comes around, they have to be on Vulcan with a Klingon ship, so they kind of do this whole thing to get there. I love it. I have references to some of the characters in there into the book, so I love the novels and the literature and all that. I would love for this to be canon.
Can you describe just a few sentences? What is Star Trek Coda?
We're all familiar with the concepts of canon and everything. You have the prime timeline, the canon timeline, the ones that's from a TV show. Then there was the literary universe. And the literary universe, there's been Star Trek novels running since, pretty much day one. But it kind of really formed into a cohesive canon of its own around 2005, I think, after Enterprise ended, when they knew there was going to be no more stories post Nemesis. That was going to be the end. So there's adventures on the Enterprise E. Picard is married. He has a kid with Beverly Crusher. Riker is in command of the Titan and off doing his thing. Voyager returns to Earth and they have Project Full Circle. There was an entire literary universe. And then when Picard came around, it complicated things a little bit. And they sent down the order that they wanted to end the literary universe, to end that canon, so that the novels going forward would tie up with what's been done on screen since then. There was many ways they could have chosen to do this. They chose to do it in a way which I did not like. Your mileage may vary on that. But yeah, I have many thoughts on Star Trek Coda. We don't have enough time here, as in the whole other podcast, to be on there. But yeah. That's plenty online.
Yeah. Coming back to your book, it's online available on wolf359project.com, I think.
It's correct.
And,
it's
you
on
have
Twitter
a
as well.
physical print of your book in your hand. And how many and why and how did you do this?
So how many? I printed 20 copies because that was the smallest number I could print. And I wanted to hold it. I wanted to have, a physical copy myself. I wanted a book with my name on it. That was something I wanted to do. But a huge amount of people have messaged me repeatedly, about 560, in fact, really wanting a physical copy, which, we are exploring options to do it. We have to tread very carefully because, we do not own a license and we don't want to upset anyone. So the plan is, for cost of printing, offering a small run. It will be a small run and it will be a one-time thing. We'll do a small run for people. If you follow us on Twitter, again, if you go to the webpage, there's a Linktree thing there. There's an interest list. If you sign up to the interest list, when we know how much it'll cost to do the small run, we'll let you know. You pay for the printing, you get a book out of it. We're not making any money out of it. It is literally just to cover the printing costs. Because that's expensive. I could tell you how much it costs. It is. I got a quote to how much it costs to print 200 of these, and I'm like, I cannot afford that.
Bernd, did you ever consider printing one of your project subsites to have it physically in your hand?
There is actually a Starfleet Museum book for printing at cost price. I admit I didn't order it. I think Dan composed it based on Masao's work and looks pretty good as a PDF. And so this should still be available, or if not, I have to remove the link. So this is the one that is available. The rest, the main site EAS, it makes no sense to print it out. I usually change like 20, 30 pages per week. Even if it's just typos, I wouldn't want to give it to a printing press and have all this half-baked stuff on paper, or even worse, to know that people will have this half-baked stuff on paper that I would want to fix.
There's a Starfleet Museum book, very interesting. I have to locate that. I suggested it to Masao at one point, but he then declined the idea. But for the very same reason as you stated, so I think he was not done with writing all the articles that he had in mind.
Unfortunately, it's been quite some time since I've been in contact with Masao. He's a bit. He seems to have switched his interests a bit, but Dan has taken care of the articles and of that book, and. So perhaps it's still available.
Jan, do you have any questions further? Because I'm out of questions at the moment.
Yeah, I was having the very same idea. Yeah. So I think this. I learned something today. There's a Masao Okazaki Starfleet Museum book that is the highlight of my day. So. For everyone who hasn't looked into that, please have a look. It's great. I think it's better than Enterprise. At least I thought about that back time. If you look closely, at one point you might even find some reference by some local guy, whatever. And
you mean you designed one of the ship logos?
I designed one of the ship logos.
Yeah,
yes.
I know which one. Yeah.
Well, again, just as I said earlier, I couldn't have done it without the work of people like Bernd and Memory Alpha. And it's not just me. There's other fan alphas out there. It's an invaluable resource, and I think writers, absolutely should take advantage of it. In addition to 359 project, there's The Edge of Midnight, which I said is the Klingon one, and I know John just kind of pours over your site, especially with the original series stuff as well, and pulls his hair out as well when it comes up to especially now with Strange New Worlds is going on as well, and you have dealing with things like McGorn and everything, and he's got to try and make sense of how does these things kind of all connect. So yeah, it's we couldn't do it without people like you, Ben, so thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. So we talked about how fandom has changed earlier. I think we didn't really address how it may have changed, but something that has not changed is that fans do care for the franchise in all kinds of forums, websites, and that will still go on, and it's great to have that new canon material to tend to, even though I sometimes may sound like, oh, this is reboot, but actually it's the kind of stuff that my site was made for. I could say that after fun of viewing the episode comes the fun of taking care of all the details. So just yesterday, season 2 finale of Strange New Worlds with the Gorn. Oh. I don't think I spoiled anyone. So
I haven't seen it. No.
Bernd, just a moment. You can't spoil it because I need weeks of cutting and producing
maybe,
it.
Maybe I spoiled it for. Maybe I spoiled it for you 3 or 4, and so it was the Gorn, and there will be some topics that I take care of, and okay, so that's essentially what keeps the site alive, and what keeps the fans talking.
Let's close this podcast with a little advertisement, an advertisement for my own podcast, because we will have another recording with Bernd Schneider shortly. It will be in German, but we have English and German subtitles available for every show, every episode. And in the next and sixth season, we will talk about the future of Star Trek. I think this will be a very interesting topic, and maybe we will discuss even longer. I don't know. I'm very curious how this recording will be. And Andy, Alex, Bernd, do you have something to plug, something you want to advertise?
Come to the site.
Which site?
EAS, just the acronym. People should know.
I wrote a book. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but you can go and read that. It's available for free to download, so go and check that out. There's also a web ring we just started up called Tranquility Press, which is tranquility.press. That's just a fan web ring for fan fiction works like We Have Engaged the Borg or Edge of Midnight and things like that. And they're accepting submissions now as well. So if you have a world building project or something like the Starfleet Museum book you were speaking about there, reach out to them. They'd love to host it and kind of help you get it out there for people to check it out and read it. And just engage with a fandom and engage with the minutiae. That's where it's fun. Treat it, dive in there, treat it as a real world. That's where Star Trek's the most fun for me. So that's all I'd have to plug.
Alex, what about you?
I have nothing to plug right now.
But we have a lot to thank you, because you were a little bit of a last-minute invite here. And of course, we have to thank you for years of contribution for Memory Alpha. And I'm glad we had contributors like you and many, many others to take this wiki to the status we have right now. Thank you, and thank all the other contributors of Memory Alpha.
Yeah.
I can only second that. Yes, thank Alex Schisma. Thanks for coming in at the last minute as one of our visitors today. And also thank you to Andy and Bernd for being in this podcast and discussing about the fandom of Star Trek. And of course also an advanced thank you to Florian for taking the material from this recording and turning it into another nice podcast. And I hope I see everyone again in the next episode when we talk about the future of Star Trek.
Okay. So let's say goodbye with the greeting only Star Trek fans will know. Was it live long and prosper, or may the force be with you? I'm unsure.
It's time to shut down. Yeah.
I have to look it up.
So live long and prosper.
Live long
Thank you
and
for
prosper.
participating.
Thanks for arranging this.
Bye.
Bye.